Hi guys, and you're very welcome to another episode here on narcscon with myself and Remy. I had to actually ask him to get into position because he was over at the kitchen window there. And for anyone that is listening to this on audio only, we're back in that wintry weather where we've come in from a rainy walk and we have the fire going. So in that vein, we will have our chat with you about understanding narcissists, because if we understand them, it's much easier to heal after an experience with a narcissist. That's somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, and the behaviors they display because of, you can call it a personality disorder, but I would call it very malign, dark behavior that they will put out onto other people as a result of the way they've decided and continue to decide to live their lives. So there are many different behavior patterns as such, all in the big cycle that the narcissist will go through in a very predictable manner. And I'd say most of us are familiar with that cycle, which is coming upon somebody that has something that the narcissist wants, and it can be just their personal energy so that the narcissist can gain narcissistic supply. But the bigger behavior pattern or cycle of a narcissist is they love bomb the person, they then devalue that person, they discard them or are left by the person, and then they try and hoover and re-engage that person into the narcissist behavior cycle. Today, I'd like to talk about a cycle within the big cycle. And it's like, if you have a machine that has a big wheel that turns, or a clock, there's a lot of little wheels or medium-sized wheels that help turn that big wheel. And this is a particularly medium-sized wheel that runs within the narcissist's overall behavior cycle. And I call it the continuation of the parent-child dynamic that changes continually within the narcissist and their interactions into adulthood, and in their reactions and interactions and relationships with people they encounter in adulthood. I feel this is really important to understand this, or at least know that it exists, in the fact that it is an exceptional healing tool, in that it allows you, once you understand what it is, to depersonalize yourself more from the experience in your healing journey, in understanding that this is a disordered way of interacting with somebody, and it is the way that the narcissist interacts with everybody. It is not as apparent in some relationships, but in the intimate relationships, and where the narcissist is in a family dynamic, and where the narcissist indeed has children of their own, it is very recognizable if you know what you're looking for. And given that they go through this cycle with everybody in that particular situation, it may help you depersonalize some of the critiques and some of the unfathomable behavior. That's another word for not understandable behavior that the narcissist would have displayed in your particular relationship. So you can say, well, it was the narcissist behavior cycle, and I must take a re-look at the things that I was believing about myself and the critiques that were coming my way. And obviously take a reasonable look. We all don't want to turn into narcissists and become unaccountable for our behavior. But it's the unrealistic critique that was coming your way to understand that it wasn't actually about you. It was about the narcissist is, in my opinion, exceptionally healing. So without further ado, let's get into it, where we go right back to the beginning of the narcissist's life to get an understanding of where this cycle started, where it was actually set up, and how then they bring it into their adulthood and even into their own children's lives. The narcissist started in a family of origin, like we all do, and was subjected to some type of controlling parent, controlling teacher, controlling dynamic wherever they found themselves, where that person was an unreasonably controlling, possibly narcissistic individual, or where the child had a great degree of trauma and was not able to control the situation. Again, so many people go through the most awful childhood traumas and do not choose the narcissistic way of life. So I'll leave that with you there. The narcissist view of what was happening at that time, in order for them to survive, they understood that there was a controlling parent and that they were helpless and powerless in that situation, and more or less made up an imaginary character for themselves to be. They decided that they would form this persona, obviously subconsciously, and with a non-awareness at that stage, where they were going to learn the manipulations of their controller. That's the way they decided that they were going to get through this particular phase in life. So they learned the tactics to control adults. They saw what tactics worked. Maybe it was crying, maybe it was telling lies, maybe it was setting somebody else up. But whatever they learned, they decided that that's the way they were going to survive this situation, and that's the way they developed themselves personally. The narcissist would also have known that to go against that particular parent was not a good idea. So they would have, on the face of it, complied with that parent and been basically an extension of the parent themselves, in that they didn't individuate. And that's why you'll often find narcissists very, very attached to one particular parent, and even using a parent as a transitional source of supply when they're in between relationships, between intimate relationships. So the narcissist basically goes into adult life having learned how to manipulate people, even having learned how to manipulate that parent, learning that they need to maintain control at all costs, that they want to be the controller. They don't want to be the target of the controller. And they go into adult life having created the impression that they have a personality and that they, to all intents and purposes, look like an adult that takes on adult responsibilities. And they will put that off as long as possible. But I'm talking about someone, say from your early to mid 30s on, who, in order to function in society, has to adopt a certain degree of adulthoodness, if you want to call it that for a better word. They have to have a job in order to get certain things. They have to look responsible, and you know, particularly when they're wearing a mask in order to attract sources of narcissistic supply, attract people in and be believable, have the mask be believable. They have to put out a certain type of level of adult responsibility or look like that. So then they get into a relationship with someone, usually someone who is very, very good at being an adult, who's probably an overgiver, who's probably worked very hard to get what they want and set themselves up well. They will hook on to someone that has a lot of resources, usually. And sometimes people say, well, I didn't have that resource. You know, at the time the narcissist came along, they had more money than me, they had more this than me. They will see potential in you. And it may not always be financial resources they're after. They may be after your looks. They may be after your ability to get on well with people, because then by being your partner, they can harness that asset. And you can bring people towards them. There are so many aspects of what a narcissist needs that they don't want to bother generating for themselves, or they haven't got the ability to generate for themselves. The narcissist will harness or harvest you into a relationship using the mask of an adult. But what they actually want to do is for you to take the adult responsibility within the relationship so that they can put up the facade of maybe being married or in a couple, but they don't want the responsibilities. So they're quite happy to put on this charade of being an adult married person, going to work, having their job or whatever, but you're the one that's going to be being the parent, so to speak, taking the responsibilities on, paying the bills, cleaning the house, doing the stuff that a child wouldn't be interested in doing. They're happy to go out and play. They're happy to try and book as many vacations as possible. They're probably financially irresponsible. They're basically have hooked you in to replace the parent who would have gave them the services or looked after those type of needs for them. Hope that makes sense. So for a while, they're allowing you to take care of them and be the parent while they go play as the child. And initially, they'll play together with you, as children. But as the relationship grows, you will find yourself oftentimes, leave in the comments if this has resonated with you, you'll oftentimes find yourself in a more parental role, in a more exhausting role, in a more kind of reining the other person back in or asking questions and saying, perhaps it's not a good idea to spend all our life savings on one vacation. Those kind of things. Now, when it gets to the point in a relationship with a narcissist, and I often find through personal experience and through coaching, the 6 months stage is a tricky one. The year stage is another tricky one, and 18 months is about as much as they can do in keeping the mask on. Obviously, there are exceptions to this. People go for 5, 10 years and long-term relationships with narcissists. But in general, that's what I have found to be the kind of timeline in relation to the mask feeling tight or them kicking back at their partner, because their partner becomes either exhausted or something triggers them. They become more self-aware. They realize that the relationship isn't reciprocal, and they do a bit of kickback. And it can even be they're still totally in love with the person, with the narcissist, but something like their financial situation is dire and they need to do something. Or they have a child with the narcissist and the narcissist is not helping them in any way and they need some help. Whatever it is that triggers the resistance in the person, the narcissist partner, who has been given the parental role, the narcissist will kick back. And this is when you see the cycle turning within the big cycle. And the narcissist becomes the critical parent, and you are put in the child role, the complaining child role. You're not doing things as you should be doing them. This is the narcissist trying to bring you back under control. You're interrupting the narcissist's reaping of your supply. You're reneging on the services you're providing the narcissist. You're complaining about having to work 24/7. Imagine. You're actually standing up for yourself. And I don't mean you're fighting. I mean you're just asking, can we sit down and have a chat about things? You're feeling exhausted. You don't know if you can continue like this. Is there anything you can change? That is a narcissistic injury. It's akin to you saying, I want to be in control, and I'm saying no to you, to the narcissist. The narcissist immediately starts to tell you how bad you are and how you can't do anything without complaining, how it's actually all about you and what you need. And do you ever think about how hard the narcissist has to work? Do you ever, for a second, think about anyone other than yourself? and the projection comes in, and the narcissist starts to tell you what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what you do wrong, and what you could do right. And they also threaten to withdraw and abandon you at this stage. They threaten a punishment of some sort, like an adult saying, if you continue doing this, I'm going to have to do something about it. I'm going to have to put you in the naughty corner. I'm going to have to give you a mini discard. I'm going to have to triangulate you with someone else to show you what a good girl or a good boy is, because you're being bold at the moment. And that, in effect, people, is when the narcissist goes into the self-righteous, hypercritical, grandiose parent role, where they are remembering that they need to be in total control, and they need you in the child role, where they can project all of the bad feelings they had and have about themselves onto you, because you are effectively an extension of them. They've taken you into their life to serve a purpose. And one of those purposes is to alleviate them of the bad feeling they have about themselves. So if they can tell you that you're bad and you're this and you're that, they can go into the parent role of feeling superior to you and scapegoating you for all the things they feel about themselves. Hope that makes sense. So if you've ever scratched your head in the relationship and thought, geez, one minute this guy or this gal is, flying about the place, doing everything they like, having a great time. Once things are going well, they're having a great time. Once you're putting out for them, they're having a great time. Once you're giving them, opening your bank account for them, they're having a great time. Once that stops or threatens to stop in any way, this self-righteous parent comes out and the relationship dynamic totally changes. They also go off to other people and start to complain about you as to how they can improve your behaviour, that you have a lot of problems, just as if you're a naughty child. So when you object to being treated like a child and you understand that there is something very wrong with this person, that you know that you have been the one that's doing 100% or taking 100% of the responsibilities in the relationship, and this non-person is criticizing you for things that don't even relate to you, and you're going scratching your head and thinking, where on earth's name is this coming from? It's coming from the narcissist's parent-child switching role in their behaviour cycle. They never individuated from their parent. As a child, they never developed a separate personality. So they're stuck overplaying this role with whichever person is in front of them or individual is in front of them that decides they're not going to continue allowing the narcissist not take responsibility and blame other people for things going wrong and not take accountability and not be an adult as such. So there is also an issue then when the narcissist has a child. And this is for anyone also that is co-parenting with a narcissist. This particular part of the chat might be of use. The narcissist believes, this is the way they would view having a child, whether it's a male narcissist or a female narcissist. If they've decided or a child has arrived in the world because of an action they took, so they're the biological parent of the child, that child is merely an extension of them. They feel ownership. That is their child, like their car, their television. That child belongs to them. That child wouldn't exist in their mind unless or because the narcissist decided to have them or was responsible for having them. They don't see this individual that's born to them by this amazing miracle as being a wonderful creature with a soul and a spirit and a uniqueness that is going to develop a life purpose and achieve things in their own right and be a total individual and just have the narcissist as a parent rather than the owner and dominator of this human being that's come into the narcissist's life. So the narcissist goes, yay. I mean, this is obviously subconsciously. There's more of me. There's more of me here. And the narcissist, as this extension grows up and becomes a walking, talking human being, tells the child how to be. And if the child doesn't do what the narcissist would do, like the narcissist is turning left, the child must turn left, so to speak. If the child doesn't reflect well back onto the narcissist, particularly in company, the narcissist will tell the child who they are and who they need to be, like they're talking to themselves as such. However, the narcissist will go into the parent role and critique the child, going back into the role they experienced as a young child. Without any regard for the individuality of that child, the narcissist will insist that the child be what they want the child to be, an extension of them. In their critique of the child, they will be getting rid of all the bad feelings about themselves and literally emotionally regulating themselves by telling the child they're this and they're bad at that and they shouldn't do this. They get this amazing feeling of superiority and of being in control and quite literally scapegoating their own child as detaching from them in a way that they can offload and spew out basically a dark energy. They have no love for that child, just as they have no love for themselves, even though they seem and appear to adore themselves. They don't actually exist as a stable personality. It's the best way I can describe it. I see them more as vehicles for energy. Unfortunately, the humanity in them is eroded to a great extent. Even though a lot of us have family members as narcissists, and we love narcissists, it's more of what we project onto the narcissist and the hope we have for the humanity that is left in them. We must dislike their behaviours, I suppose, and have hope for what there is there. But there's not a lot there, that's what I'll say, and their behaviours we need to understand so that you don't necessarily have to condemn them, the narcissists themselves, but you have to condemn the behaviours and understand them. And people need to be educated about what they do and the destruction they cause to prevent that happening or to protect themselves against it. So, a child of a narcissist will learn coping mechanisms. They may withdraw, they may develop great empathy, they may gravitate to animals to be able to love someone or something. They may love the other parent. They may have grandparents they love. Hopefully they will be saved. But the impact a narcissist will be having on that child and the level of control and the parental role that the narcissist will go into literally regulates them so that they can be less rageful when they go out into maybe their job or other relationships they may have, sporting friends, etc. The narcissist will appear quite calm, quite normal, hard to detect their narcissism because they have at home a partner who's putting out for them all the time if the partner hasn't objected to what's happening as yet. And that partner may in turn have been groomed by a narcissistic parent to not object, to go along with what a narcissist says, etc. So that child of the narcissist, interestingly and awfully, when they get to the age of about, early puberty, 12, 11, into their teenage years, if they rebel against the narcissist's control, the narcissist will go ape. That is when a narcissist will either abandon the child or actually give the child such a hard time that there's physical abuse or there is dire punishments for the child way over the top in relation to the action the child may take. And the child consequently either becomes a dropout, addicted to a substance, dreadful problems in school, and the narcissist goes along as the responsible parent to the school. Don't know why my child is like this. It's absolutely terrible. I'm doing everything I can to put the child right, etc. And you can see how it goes. So at that point, oftentimes, when the partner of the narcissist starts to realize that this isn't right, this relationship isn't reciprocal, and the narcissist is being the hypercritical parent, when the partner realizes that there's something very wrong and the partner remains in the adult role, responsible role, without reverting back to the child that was criticized maybe, in that lack of self-esteem and believing the narcissist is right. And this is a very important time for a person who is with a narcissist, who is going through a devaluation of this type with a narcissist, where the parental thing comes in, the hypercritical parent is giving out to you. A lot of people who may have had that in their childhood can fall back into the role and comply and be self-critical, self-analytical, and think that the narcissist is right about some things. So be very, very careful that your pattern developed from childhood, if you've experienced that with a parental narcissist, doesn't kick in here. You need to save yourself at this stage and understand this is the narcissist personality disorder coming in to try and make them feel better, and really be realistic here and try and get some outside support, or of course leave. It's not always that easy for people to just leave when they realize this, but it's very important to depersonalize in as much as possible this giving out authoritarian figure that suddenly has the audacity, after maybe spending 3 nights out of the week and rolling in at 3 a.m, has the audacity to suddenly tell you what's what. When the child, if the narcissist has a combination of their partner or the other parent and the child, the teenage child, saying, no, we're not taking any more, Dad, we're not taking any more, honey, the narcissist can often at that stage leave the relationship and go on, oftentimes to someone younger who's going to be more compliant. For the narcissist to re-regulate themselves and re-establish their superiority, they will totally diss their children. In order to bring them back under control, they will withdraw and leave. And they will cause as many problems as possible in relation to maintenance, custody, property selling, all those things, in order to try and maintain control on what they own. They feel they own you. They feel they own their children. This is just one type of outcome for the narcissist in their parent-child cycle, within the bigger cycle. It can go in different ways. They can love bomb a child and basically work on turning the child into a narcissistic servant for themselves and continuing that pattern and cycle that was continued with them, with their own parent. So the children or child can often idolize the narcissistic parent. Even an empathic child can idolize the narcissistic parent when the narcissistic parent decides to praise them and turn them against the healthy parent. There are a lot of different dynamics. If you want a customized approach to what you're going through, I would suggest consider coaching for your own particular situation. That's it in relation to the parent-child role. The narcissist always cycles, always has a behaviour pattern, is never stable, and always can be relied on to be either the child or the parent, but never really the one for any length of time. I hope that was helpful in depersonalizing the experience you had when the narcissist was telling you you weren't all that, in a kind of a finger-wagging, authoritative way. That's literally what they were doing. They were taking over the parent role. They were recreating the situation they experienced maybe as a child, and you were put in the role of child for that time in order to regulate the narcissist, in order for them to regain control and feel superior. I hope that makes sense. The hardback copy of the book Weaponized Love is now out on Amazon for anyone that is interested in purchasing. We will see you again very soon. Take great care of yourselves. In the meantime, that's it for now.